Welcome to 365 Christian Men, where every day we aim to inspire and encourage with real-life stories about men. November 27th, Keith Green. As a toddler, Keith Green sang Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star with perfect pitch, which prompted his parents to provide musical training. Keith liked piano, but not playing the long classical pieces. When he was expected to learn to read sheet music, he simply memorized the classical pieces and pretended to be sight reading the notes when his teacher was there. When he learned to play chords on the piano, he began writing and singing his own songs. He was 6 years old. Keith went searching for spiritual truth, a journey that took about 14 years and that led him through drugs and Eastern mysticism. Finally, Keith met a woman who introduced him to Jesus. Keith married her and gave his life to Jesus. Keith and Melody opened their home to anybody with a need or to anyone who wanted to kick drugs or to get off the street. Keith preached to them all, and their home became known as the Greenhouse. Even in concerts, Keith would say, "If you praise and worship Jesus with your mouth, and your life does not praise and worship him, there's something wrong." On this date, in 2001, Keith Green was inducted into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame.
A guy can play it safe and live a comfortable life, or take a risk and live an adventure. Keith Green's next move shook the music industry to its core. He's going to do what? Why? That's not generosity, it's foolishness. And not only that, it's going to make everyone else look greedy. As a Christian musician in the 70s and 80s, Keith Green set a high bar. His life reflected the words of his songs. He lived what he preached. Green had an intense love for Christ, along with a radical commitment to serve others. Most Christians steer away from radical Christianity. They live small lives and forget they are serving a big God. But Keith and his wife Melody decided that compromising their beliefs would be hypocritical. So they made difficult choices to live out their standards. It would mean standing out and risking rejection and ridicule. To live the radical life God wanted for them, the Greens chose first not to worry about money. Before they became Christians, they had been generous, always inviting people to stay with them. But after they became Christians, their generosity grew. With their first free fall of money, they bought 2 houses and rented 4 more to house anyone who needed shelter. Even in the hippie culture, which was still prevalent, this was a radical move. When Keith signed on with Sparrow Records, a Christian record label, money started pouring in. His albums shot to the top of the charts, and the Christian music industry took notice. The brave choices Keith and Melody made in spending their money to serve others was met with admiration. The Greens created Last Days Ministries to continue to serve others. Keith's heart was to tell people about Jesus through his music and his concerts. The Greens wanted to reach every person they could, so Keith decided to give his albums away for free or allow people to pay whatever they could afford. The Greens didn't want anyone left out because they couldn't afford an album. Last Days Ministries began sending albums to prisons and hospitals and all around the world. The Christian music industry began to question whether Keith and Melody had a hidden agenda. Sure, living for Christ meant living by God's word, but the Greens were being too radical. Were they doing this to look better than everyone else? Didn't they realize that this seemingly generous behavior would affect other Christian musicians who were also trying to make a living? Many felt the Greens' decision to give away albums for free was simply wrong. But the Greens decided to do what they felt God was telling them to do, and they didn't cave in to the pressure of the record companies. The risk was worth it. Keith took it a step further. He decided to let people into his concerts for free as well. This decision drew even more criticism and insults, but the Greens didn't seem to care. The ministry would rent the venue for the concert, and then Keith would take up an offering to help cover the costs. Because they were able to support themselves with their music royalties, Keith and Melody never received a penny from the offerings. Passion for Christ requires courage to live an adventure, not a safe life. Romans 12, verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Is your life constrained by comfort zones, or are you taking risks for Christ? A guy can play it safe and live a comfortable life, or he can take a risk and live an adventure.
Thank you for listening to today's story. Every day of the year, our hope is to inspire you with real-life stories of faithful men who have gone before us. We are excited to announce that every 365 story is now available as an ebook and is available for purchase on our website at 365christianmen.com.